Are there any reliable, affordable vehicles in 2026 still capable of running over 200,000 miles? Yes, in fact, I've scratched together a list of 12 of those vehicles that most mechanics would agree would go way beyond 200,000 miles with the right amount of maintenance, low maintenance and service costs, and they're guaranteed to cause you minimal troubles. In an increasing market of vehicles that are over-complex, highly expensive, and full of subscription services, I'm going to give you the list of the vehicles you're going to want to buy in 2026. Let's get into it now. Now, rolling into this list, affordable means vehicles that with an average transaction price lower than 50 grand, which is the industry average, or on the used car market under $26,000, which is the latest industry average transaction price for a used vehicle. We also refer to RepairPal and iSeeCars.com for a whole conglomeration of statistics that come together and validate that these vehicles will run over 200,000 miles. The first one on our list is the Toyota Corolla. Always high on the list of reliable cars, we all know that they're going to last for a long time. With the base sticker price of $23,000 and change, or with an XLE hybrid, you can get it just under $30,000. It's vastly under the threshold for brand new vehicle transaction prices. With fuel economy ratings of at least 35 miles per gallon on the gas versions, RepairPal claims about a $362 in annual service for these vehicles, where CarEdge estimates slightly higher over a 10-year time frame, extrapolated to be about $4,400. But the beauty is there's only a 12% chance of anything popping up that's significant by nature. Because the Toyota Corolla utilizes a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, rest assured you don't have all the pesky issues with turbocharging and direct fuel injection. These vehicles are simply built to last. In a 10-year time frame between the initial purchase price and the 10-year service cost, you may in fact on a base model still be under $30,000. Most owners who've had these for at least 10, 15 years, because they really haven't changed a lot, have also seen vehicles that have vastly exceeded 300,000 miles. The Toyota Corolla is one of those based on simplicity, economy, and ultimately a vehicle. If you need to go A to B as cheaply as possible, this one's on your list. The next one on our list, it's a Toyota Camry. The Camry has always been a reliable unit. I mean, the exception goes back to 2007 to 2008, where some of the vehicles had oil burning. Soft tension rings meant that a lot of times you had to add a lot of extra oil. There was an upgrade for that, but after that, Toyota had nailed down the reliability of the Camry. There's been a few claims of weak transmissions here since then, and now the latest generation is a hybrid only that starts around $29,000 US. But we purchased ourselves a 2022 and we absolutely adore this vehicle. It's been nothing but trouble-free, low annual service costs, maximum reliability, and even a style and value that suggests this is way more value and bang for buck than the Corolla for only marginally more dollars. It's not uncommon to find Camrys from back in 2012, 2014 to have a way in excess of 300,000 miles. With the EPA ratings of 43 miles per gallon, fuel costs are low, maintenance and repair costs are low, and overall durability is simple, easy, and affordable. That's the Camry mantra. Now, the only drawback is the outgoing Camrys had a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, of course, and the naturally aspirated V6, which the V6 is one of those ultra durable. Dual port and direct fuel injection meant that the previous generation Camry would literally last forever without having carbon fouling issues. No turbos to be a problem, and as well, not even a CVT to be noticed anywhere. The Camry comes with a torque converter auto with an engine that's mounted transversely. Reliable, simple platform, and one that almost anybody looking for a reliable means of transportation that has a level of space and practicality just can't be ignored. The boys at CarEdge say the Toyota Camry could be expected to spend as little as $4,600 in a 10-year time frame for overall maintenance costs, and that vastly beats the average sedan by $1,300. Next one on my list is absolutely indisputable, one of my true favorites in the luxury car segment, and we're talking about the Lexus IS. Touted as literally one of the most reliable and longest lasting vehicles, J.D. Power estimates that one of the few that will go over 250,000 miles consistently. Sure, their infotainment systems were weak back in the 2020 era and older, but since then they've put in that engine, that naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that has both the dual port and direct fuel injection, meaning there's no carbon fouling here. That's one of the few cars in the industry still holding an NA engine with that level of durability. The added beauty is is a torque converter automatic, and it's a rear-wheel drive platform. Means it's sprightly, it's fun, and it's super reliable. iSeeCars.com also claims a 27.5% chance, which is the highest of all sedans, of reaching over 250,000 miles. With the Lexus IS starting around $47,000, it flies under the radar of the threshold and still is considered one of the more affordable luxury cars. CarEdge estimates about a 10-year service cost total of about $6,000, and just about every Lexus is well known and well documented of having vehicles that will go over 200,000 miles without even batting a lash. I personally love the IS. I think it's one of the rare gems in today's industry and one of the last of a dying breed. Get them while they're hot. The next one is a true gem, and I've recommended these time and time again, is the Honda Accord. With over 15 million units sold since the beginning of time, it's one of the most popular models next to the Ford F-Series and the Toyota Corolla. Now that said, they're not perfect. Back in 2008, they had a series of vehicles that had heavy oil consumption. Then in 2018, they had some electrical gremlins, and the earlier generation of the new versions that utilized the CVT transmissions also had problems with those continuously variable transmissions. Once the bugs were worked out, Honda always is well known for building reliable cars, and the Honda Accord is simply that car. I truly believe the Accord with the previous generation V6 was probably one of the best cars you could ever buy. Yes, in fact, it was as good or even better than the Toyota Camrys of the same time frame, around 2012 to 2018, when Honda was building some of their best engines. That 3.5-liter V6, the only drawback is the fact that you had to change the timing belt. Water pump, that was a bit of a maintenance. But other than that, it was a very reliable unit with a decent amount of performance. CarEdge estimates about a $5,800 for a 10-year time frame regarding to maintenance. And iSeeCars suggests that the Honda Accord has a likeliness of 3.3 times the industry average of hitting 250,000 miles. Now, the Accord, priced at $29,590, places it more expensive than both the Toyota Corolla and marginally more expensive than the Camry. That being said, with hybrid drivetrains very comparable to what Toyota is doing, the Honda is a very strong argument. It's a vehicle that looks great, performs well. For a sedan that's available in 2026 that's still considered reliable, this is one of those rare gems that you really have to take a look at. The next one is another Toyota. Should be of no surprise. The Toyota Avalon has been around for years, and it is an absolute glorious unit. Now, many people suggest it's the gray hair special, so the popularity wasn't quite there. But get around that, this is essentially a Lexus ES. Beautiful car with a reliability that iSeeCars says is likely 20% chance of these average Avalon hitting over 200,000 miles, which puts it about 7.3 times above the average sedan and only a marginal slot behind the Lexus IS, which we already know is one of the most reliable cars on the market, bar none. Now, of course, because the Avalon was discontinued in 2023, we have to consider models from 2018 to 2022 still holding price tags in that $20,000 to $28,000, still puts them lightly under the threshold of the average used transaction price these days. And because it's a Toyota, essentially with a torque converter automatic transmission and naturally aspirated V6 engines, mean again, it was the last of a dying breed. And unfortunately, we'll never see those types of engines again. An engine that will run 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles. But the Avalon is just that car. Now, the next one is a small truck. It's the Honda Ridgeline. The first generation, second generation, whichever you like, you can buy new or used versions. They feature a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6. The only downside is there's a small recall for engine issues related to the crank bearings. There are also some potential problems with higher mileage related to the VCM, which deactivates certain cylinders, looking for the pursuit of fuel economy. Take care of your oil services and maintenance. These engines are guaranteed to last just about forever. Only other drawback is timing belts. Yes, Honda loves their timing belts in this 3.5-liter V6 that you're going to find in the Ridgeline, the Odyssey. You'll also see it over on the MDX and the Acura side. Now, considering it's got a 6-speed automatic transmission in the older units and a 5,000 tow capacity, means that it's very versatile. It's rugged. It doesn't rock this 12, 1,500 speed transmission. And no CVT transmissions in the Honda Ridgeline. It's a good old-fashioned bare bones honest pickup truck if you're looking for something smaller. And for a base trim of 2026 models ranging around $41,000, it falls way short of the average transaction price for new vehicles this year. The Ridgeline also happens to fall into the category of one of the cheapest that I see cars suggest may run over 250,000 miles, with about a 14.7% likeliness. There just happens to be one model year, specifically the 2017, which appears to be especially susceptible to rodent infestation, wiring getting chewed because of the soy wiring, and so ultimately avoid that year. Electrical gremlins were a bit of a problem. The automatic transmission has been known to be problems on smaller batches of vehicles, but overall a very strong likeliness of this vehicle going almost forever. The next one is a Toyota 4Runner, and I can't tout these vehicles enough. The only exception to the 4Runner, and even those lasted a long time, were the old generation with the 3-liter V6s that had a tendency to burn up head gaskets. Outside of that, just about every 4Runner since then has been an absolute bulletproof workhorse. As an example, the 3rd generation with a 2.7-liter engine called the 3RZ FE was a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that was so underpowered it couldn't make that vehicle get outside of its own way. But the benefit was that's the name of the game with the 4Runner. None of these engines, whether it's the 4-cylinder or the later model V6s, were overstressed. Understressed, underworked meant that they would last forever. There were some problems, like the 2022 had brake issues, suspension issues. I know somebody who's got a Limited too that now has to upgrade those very expensive shocks. So there are some costly areas, but stick with a base trim like an SR5 or some kind of base variation. You're going to experience one of the best vehicles on the road today that's going to go hundreds of thousands of miles. According to iSeeCars, the 4Runner has a 32.9% likeliness of hitting over 250,000 miles. That actually puts it 7.7 times above the industry average. And it tucks it neatly behind the Toyota Sequoia, which happens to have a 39.1% likeliness. But the Toyota Sequoia has big, powerful, beefy engines, and they're generally underworked even more. With the 2026 Toyota 4Runner stickering around $42,000 base trim, it's more likely the approach over the Sequoia because the Sequoia is a much more substantial and costly venture. And that puts the 4Runner about $8,000 below the industry average transaction price, making it a relatively affordable purchase. CarEdge also suggests that it's about $2,200 less in a 10-year time frame in terms of maintenance costs, above and beyond or better than the industry average for SUVs. And the chances of needing a catastrophic repair taken care of are about 7.36% lower than the average. The next one on the list is definitely a vehicle that's ultra popular. It's the Honda CR-V with 4 cylinders NAs or some of the Turbo 4s that they've got in today's models. Now, the 1.5-liter Turbo 4 is an engine that I would say would be one of the few I would advise against, because with the blown head gasket issue, they also had the oil and fuel dilution challenges, meant the 1.5 is just a lot more than you want to bargain for. But outside of that, stick with one of the naturally aspirated variants, and the Honda CR-V is one of the most popular and reliable small compact SUVs you could possibly find anywhere. The CR-V is so popular, in fact, it's been around about 30 years, and even better, last year alone it sold almost 400,000 units. According to Consumers Reports, it also is timed with the Toyota Camry for likeliness of making 200,000 miles. Repair Pal is stating about $407 for annual service costs. Compare that to $388 for the Camry and about $400 for the Accord, puts it smack dab with the rest of its competition. Now, CarEdge averages the 10-year time frame costs of these vehicles, the CR-V, being around $7,600. Most suggest that the first 5 years were cheap, but with the unfortunate reality of the 1.5 heavily influencing the overall cost of additional servicing and additional oil, meant that some of those costs started to rise. Outside of that, it's a very reliable unit. That's why I would strongly suggest go with the 2-liter NA engine. The older 2.4s were very durable, so that was even the best engine that they've ever utilized in the CR-V. But either way, you can't go wrong. Because at a sticker price starting around $32,000, a CR-V has definitely got to be on the radar if you're looking for something cost-effective, affordable, and best of all, a vehicle that can go over 200,000 miles. Now, as far as pickup trucks, the Chevy Silverado half-ton 1500 is one of those vehicles that many would suggest can go easily over 250, 300,000 miles. Now, there are some unfortunate realities. Anything with the 6.2 V8 called the L87, we've already known about all the mass amounts of rod bearing issues as well as a crankshaft problem. Part of it was oiling. Something was a little bit on the quality of the polishing, but nonetheless, that engine has been a bit problematic. The 5.3s have also been a problematic because of lifters braking, but even with the 5.3, that's somewhat reversible. I know somebody who's utilized a module, they plug it into the OBD2 port and it defeats that system. Shh. Don't say I said that. But ultimately, it is a fairly reliable engine outside of that. The 5.3 is the better way to go, but there are unfortunate issues, even with some cases, the transmission. 2014 to 2017 had some form of air conditioning problems as well. The 2026 starts around $38,000, making it somewhat affordable. And even IC cars suggest the 12.9% likeliness of making 250,000 miles. That places it about 2.7 times the average. With that said, CarEdge suggests about a 31% chance or likeliness of having some sort of a major problem. Hence, we're hearing about the transmission and automatic issues, and as well as those engine challenges with the L87 and of course the 5.3s. It's still 1.29% better than all other pickup trucks in the same class. The Ford F-150 happens to be the next in line. With a base sticker about $40,000 and change, definitely is a little more costly to get into as a base entry point than the Chevy or the GM. There have been some problems with the Fords. They don't call it the recall king for nothing. Remember back a few years ago, they had the 2.7 and the 3-liter engines. They had those valves on the intake side that would break off the heads. That was a bit of a supply chain challenge. There's been all kinds of recalls for Ford. And honestly, with cam phaser issues, turbocharger problems, wastegate issues, some of the Ford EcoBoost engines have sustained problems. Not to mention even the 5-liter Coyote with the wet belt system. They've all had issues, but the 3.5 definitely stands out one of the most reliable engines in the Ford lineup. The problem is you're going to have to pay a little extra for that one. Consumer Reports claims that the Ford makes the top 10 list for vehicles that will likely crest 200,000 miles. These vehicles are susceptible to poor maintenance. You've got to look after 90,000, 100,000 miles, and they're costly. Plugs, coils, fluids, liquids, you name it, from top to bottom. Neglect your fluids. This is a turbocharged engine in most cases. You will feel the burn and you won't get the mileage out of it. Take care of all your maintenance and you'll make 250,000 miles all day long. The CarEdge has a maintenance estimate of about $11,000 for a 10-year time frame. Puts us way above almost all other vehicles in the industry. I mean, here you're almost in line with BMWs, Mercedes, even Land Rover. So to drive a Ford F-150 is fun. It's great. It does a lot of versatile work, but it comes at a cost. Now, the Toyota Sienna is the next one. It should be of no surprise. You want a minivan? These are going to get it done. For a sticker price of $40,820, they also feature that beautiful naturally aspirated V6 engine. And as I've said, that is truly one of the best in the industry. Go back far enough to 2004 to 2011, and you're likely going to see issues like cracked dashboard, electronic failures, suspension, brakes, electronic instability, and honestly, the vehicles just weren't that amazing up to that point. Get into these vehicles after 2015 and almost no complaints. They're durable, they're robust, they're economical, and very low cost to service. Now, they're not without flaws either. Of course, even the 25, there was about 55,000 vehicles recalled because of improperly welded seats. Big no-no. The EPA also rates these at 36 miles per gallon, where Edmunds suggests real-world testing pushes over 40 miles per gallon. How's that for economy? Hauling around 6, 7, maybe more people and do it reliably. Low fuel, low maintenance costs, and vehicles that will run over 200,000 miles, this is a triple threat. RepairPal states about $554 annual servicing, and it really only falls just behind the Lexus IS. What's not to love? Another Toyota with a great engine and a great transmission, and honestly, a low cost of maintenance and servicing that is indisputable. And of course, we've got another one. We're talking about a Subaru Outback with a base sticker price around $36,000 and change. Makes it relatively affordable when we talk about the industry average being about 50 grand these days. This places it in a comfortable spot. It's no wonder you see these everywhere. With older models having issues like transmission failures, the worst part is engine failures, catastrophic problems there. And in 2018, they peaked with a pile of different electronic gremlins. Things just continually get better from there on. The only drawback is these vehicles are somewhat maintenance intensive, anywhere from 30 to 120,000 miles. You skip any of the servicing in that time frame, you're likely going to be delivered a vehicle that's going to cause you many more problems down the road. And likely longevity will take an impact or take a toll. So ultimately, maintenance is key with these vehicles. With the all-wheel drive system, the transmissions are fragile, but ultimately look after them. Don't abuse them and they will run literally forever. It's kind of a stretch to say that they'll easily run over 200,000 miles. Many of them kind of get to that point, but by the time you're at 250,000 miles, it's starting to really show its age. It's dated, it's got problems, and likely you're at it making a decision, a fork in the road, whether you keep it on the road or not. Chances are it'll get there, but how much longer is the real question. Check out those videos. You're really going to love those. Those are going to hit close to home, and I think you'll all appreciate it. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.